Dr. Owen Fraser is the president of AOAC Sub-Saharan Africa and will be giving the first lecture or the first presentation really under the theme of food laboratory capacity building needs and the imperatives of method standardization in the African continent. Owen, again, thank you for being here and thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much, Sam. So I will now share my screen. So please let me know when you can see my screen, and I just need to get to my presentation. So please let me know when you can see it.
We can see it, and you are
okay,
on.
Super.
Yeah, slide. So good.
Okay, so thanks again, Sam, to you and the team, and for giving us the opportunity to be part of this this very important event. Of course, my name is Owen Fraser, and once again, I'm the president of the Sub-Saharan Africa section. I'm also a member of the AOAC International Board of Directors. And when I'm not working when I'm not doing that, I'm also working as a scientist at the Nestle Institute for Food Safety and Analytical Science, based in Switzerland. So for today's talk, as Sam mentioned, I will be talking about food laboratory capacity building needs and the imperative of method standardization in the African continent. So for my talk, I will take you through 5 areas. First, I will start with the standards, testing, and trade, providing a regional perspective on this. I will talk a little bit also on the importance of testing and quality of testing. I will move on to talk a bit more about the building capacity in food testing laboratories. After that, I'll provide you a feedback from a survey of food testing laboratories in Sub-Saharan Africa that was conducted a few years ago. And then I will provide our views on how we can improve capacity building and laboratory capacity, as well as sustained performance in laboratories. I will conclude with some closing remarks. So about 3 weeks ago, the African Organization for Standardization held their 26th General Assembly. And the theme of this General Assembly was the beginning of trade among the African countries under the AFTCA agreement, boosting intra-Africa trade within the African single market through one standard, one test, one certificate, accepted everywhere. This is a very much very strong statement, and it communicates the intent of the key Pan-African quality institutions in creating an environment where trade can occur effortlessly throughout the continent. It highlights also the importance of establishing a harmonized standard, so one standard for all of the Africa trading bloc. And in order to support confirmatory assessment, the importance of testing within this environment is absolutely key and is highlighted in the statement. Organizations, so with this, a farmer in Senegal should be able to export his product to South Africa without any challenges, as long as those standards are met and the standards could be, it could be demonstrated that these standards have been met through the testing. importantly also, in a recent consultation by the African Union on the development of food safety strategy for Africa, the importance of testing was highlighted. And I think perhaps Dr. Mari, who is also on the panel, will also has also mentioned this, and perhaps will mention this in his further talks. The importance of testing lies at the heart of enabling this facilitation of trade. So the importance of testing within the context of standards and regulations and compliance. Testing provides that link between the standards and compliance. Without this, we are not able to demonstrate compliance in the way that will bring confidence in the process of having one standard, one test, one certificate, and accepted everywhere. And we know that these testing is also very much important when we are creating these standards. So the standards and the regulations that we develop must be informed by the capability of testing. So in the context of the African Continental Free Trade Area, it is very much important that the tests that we carry out in order to demonstrate compliance to those standards and regulations are accurate and reliable. They must also be sustained. The labs that are carrying out these tests, or institutions carrying out these tests, must also be able to sustain these testing standards and performance for it to work in the context of the African Continental Free Trade. So what happens when analytical results are not reliable? So when this link is broken, so that link between standards and regulations and compliance, we lose the ability to confirm compliance or to demonstrate compliance to the regulation. This results in product non-compliance, whether or not the product is indeed compliant or not. Of course, there's a loss of trade and commerce. And this also leads to a dispute, and it creates a barrier to trade. So how could we ensure, what is required when we consider building capacity in food testing labs? What are the essential components to consider? So if we look at conceptualize a lab, a food testing lab as a house, what is absolutely important to be considered is the foundation of this house, of this lab, and that is the physical laboratory. This is very, very important because the lab is a very special environment. It's meant to be controlled. It's meant to be safe as well, and it's meant to be a comfortable place to work in. And so the design of labs are critically important in how well a lab is able to perform. The analytical instruments that we use, are they suitable for what we want to use them for? Do we have the relevant infrastructure to operate these instruments? Are they fit for purpose?
Ces instruments, est-ce qu'ils sont adaptés?
Based on what we require and based on what the regulations require. And of course, then there are the analytical methods that we are using in these labs to do the testing, to carry out the testing, to generate the results. Are these methods suitable? Are they capable? Are they fit for purpose? And we can talk more about this a bit later as well. There's analytical competencies that are required in order to be able to implement these tests and to carry them out in a consistent, reliable, and sustainable manner. Of course, there is the quality management system that is required within this lab, the food testing lab, to enable it to function properly. And there is the support service or services that are required in order to ensure that the lab gets the right reagents, consumables, and such things on time in order to be able to provide this. And this also includes accreditation of the proficiency testing services as well. Finally, there is the accreditation body which must be involved, and this is the body. These are the bodies that make sure that, well, not make sure, but they ensure that the test that we are carrying out meets the basic international recognized standards and gives confidence in what the results that are generated from these labs. So a few years ago, in 2018, the AOAC Sub-Saharan Africa carried out a survey of labs in Africa. We did this by sending out questionnaires to labs and with a number of questions. And based on these responses, this is what we found. So there were approximately 300 registered food testing labs in Africa. We suspected there are more and that are not registered food testing labs. But certainly this indicates that we have perhaps in the area of 4,000, 4,500 staff working in labs around Africa. An average of 40% of the food testing labs were ISO 025 accredited for one or multiple methods that they're using in the lab. 83% of labs use international official methods. 60% of labs regularly participate in an ISO 17043 accredited proficiency test program. 50% were consider the lab as very good and modern. 50% of the labs have shared that they have instruments that were either never used or not regularly used. And the reason for that was a lack of competence and lack of budget to maintain these instruments or to buy the necessary consumables and reagents that are required for these instruments. A number of them also said that they were not regularly using their instruments or never used them because the instruments were not of the right configuration, and therefore instruments arrived with essential parts of them missing. Approximately 60% of the labs had an active training plan or training program, and finally, greater than 80% of lab analysts held a Bachelor's of Science degree or a higher qualification. I think based on this survey, of course, it is now 3 years old, and we are in the process of carrying out a follow-up survey with the same questions and to get this feedback to see how this picture has evolved. But I think if we look at this picture, it is confirming a lot of what has been observed and things that were mentioned by Dr. Amare in his opening remarks, as well as Dr. Godefroy's remarks as well. And while we see here, for example, that we have about 40% of labs that are ISO accredited, 70,025 accredited, it means that using these methods, it means that approximately 60% of labs are not accredited for the methods that they use in their labs. What is very good here is that we see that 83% of labs are using international official methods, but at the same time, we can estimate that there's approximately 20% of these labs who are using methods that are not official methods, and therefore may or may not be suitable for what they're using it for. Again, we see, yes, 60% of labs that are regularly participating in a P-test scheme. It means that 4 out of every 10 labs are not actively participating in P-test schemes. And so when we look at all of this, it gives a picture of inconsistencies occurring across the region. Now, if we think of how we are able to achieve a one test, one standard, one test, and one certificate accepted everywhere, I think the picture that we are seeing here tells us that there is an absolute need for us to drive capacity building, to invest in capacity building in labs throughout the continent in order to be able to achieve this goal of increased, of seamless trade within the continent, of safe foods as well. But I think what is very good here, of course, is that we have labs that are actively involved in training and upskilling their staff. And this is very positive. But it also, what we see here is that 40% of labs do not have an active training plan, which means if we translate the number of persons working in labs, so as a sort of rough estimate, about 4,000, it means that 40% of this 4,000 laboratory staff are not getting any further training, are not getting upskilled, even though most of them are more than capable, holding higher degrees or at least a bachelor's of science degree. So I'm sorry, let me see how we can move this this from the top here. So how can we improve laboratory capacity and sustain performance in labs? So let's consider the lab as a house again here, as I have shown earlier. First thing we need, in terms of building lab capacity and improving performance and sustaining this performance, we have to look at the physical laboratory infrastructure. I think we have to, there is the common practice of labs being considered a room that we just put an instrument in, and then we mix a few things, we put it onto the instrument, and it gives a magical result. Unfortunately, this is one of the big issues with the lab's ability to produce consistent, reliable results. Even if we have the best instruments, we use the correct method, we have the high competencies, we put in place the quality management, and we get all the support required. If that physical environment is not appropriate, if, for example, there is a window that's broken and you're testing your samples for trace elements, it's highly unlikely that you will get consistently reliable results, because there will be dust blowing in through those windows. And this is just an example. Analytical methods. We need to ensure that the methods that we are using are fit for purpose. And how can we do that? I think as Mary, Sam, and Himanshu has, as well as Tim has said earlier, collaboration is very, very important here. And so developing or participating in an analytical alignment program where analytical methods are shared and discussed, and the fit for purpose methods based on the science be the method that is accepted by consensus based on the science. Training and development in analytical competencies as well as the quality management within labs are absolutely important. And I think the other talks will reinforce that as well. And of course, investment in the analytical technologies that are suitable for what we need to use them for. This is, I believe, absolutely critical to improving lab capacity and sustaining performance in labs. Combined with the investment in lab support services, and this is where our partners such as Waters and other technology providers, reagents consumable providers play a huge role in this, P-test service providers, and of course strengthening our accreditation services and engaging with our accreditation services, not only when we need to get things accredited, but as part of that processing, helping us to create a network that supports the laboratory sciences and that infrastructure. And above all, I would propose that even an establishment of a laboratory performance management system that certifies or provides a non provides governance on laboratory standards and performance within the continent can be of huge benefit. So in wrapping up, in order to build confidence and achieve analytical method alignment and harmonization, these are some of what I would like for you to take away. So this can be achieved by strengthening the basics. We tend to move to use or implement all of the fancy stuff and so on, but the basics are very important. Analytical method validation, verification, practicing good laboratory practices, putting in place quality systems that enables us to master those basics of laboratory science and analytical science. Encourage collaborations. We've already heard quite a bit of that. And this meeting, this webinar, this launch of the IFSDL is an example of such collaborations. Networking. This is very much of the same. Africa has a large number of very highly qualified people with lots of knowledge and experience. And networking helps to pull that experience and to leverage that experience in developing the capacity and testing within Africa. We should work together to encourage science evidence-based consensus on what is fit for purpose analytical methods based on what the standards or the regulations require. This we can achieve via platforms similar to what the AOAC has been driving, and this is a non-competitive analytical method sharing platform where, as we establish expert groups who then provide feedback on what methods are fit for purpose based on the science and based on what the regulations require. And finally, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. Let us stick to the best practices and promote the use of international official methods. With this, I believe that with all of the support that we receive, all of the expertise that exists within the region, the support we are getting in terms of expertise and resources from outside of the region, I believe that we can confidently build confidence and achieve analytical methods improvement and sustainability within the region. So I would like to thank all of you, the audience, who have taken time out to share with us this afternoon. I would like to thank once again, the University Laval and those organizations that are supporting this collaboration. I would also like to thank the members of the AOAC Sub-Saharan Africa section, who has been the strength and the backbone of driving this new organization, and will continue to make a meaningful contribution to improving the quality and reliability of testing results and testing in Africa. So with this, I'd like to say thanks again, and over to you, Sam.
Thank you very much.